Quezon's Game is the story of how the Philippines stood up to Hitler. Pretty badass, right?
This is the Philippines. We will stand against Hitler.
This movie is about Manuel Quezon, president of the Philippines from 1935 to 1941. When he discovers the plight of Jews in Germany and Austria, he decides to offer asylum to them, offering them jobs and sanctuary in the Philippines. The Philippines is a very hospitable country. Reminiscent of Schindler's List, there is a list of Jews that they're trying to bring to the Philippines, but there's only so many slots. And there's also opposition from people around him. Some people want to focus on their own country, some don't care, and some are Nazis. The US at the time was still in charge of their immigration, and even when Germany allowed Jews to leave, the US was hesitant to allow them into the Philippines. Racism plays heavily in this, and there's a stunning amount of anti-Semitism, and not just from the Nazis. I wonder if all this mention of Nazis is getting me demonetized. This movie is emotional. It brought tears to my eyes, and it also pisses me off when I see all the shit limited by political rules, bureaucracy, and red tape. No one wanted to stick their neck out too far, and too many people died as a result. I felt their frustration, their anger, their sadness. It's a more political drama, and it kind of takes liberties with history. But it's also hopeful, has a lot of optimism, and during all this, he's dying of tuberculosis. Some parts were obviously spruced up for the movie, and I would call that Hollywoodized, but this wasn't made in Hollywood. Of course, they make Quezon a bigger character, a more ideal man and leader, always says the right heroic thing. A lot of movies do that, and it doesn't necessarily bother me. Being theatrical means just being larger than life. Raymond Bagatsig, I have no excuse for not pronouncing that right, is President Quezon. He's a mix between Barack Obama and Optimus Prime. He's cool, suave, and very presidential. Been a few years. He knocked it out of the park. His character is portrayed as sympathetic, heroic, generally awesome. I know movies tend to build up historical people to near perfection, but it's not really overdone. Besides, I wasn't there. It's also very well directed, and it's got beautiful cinematography. The locations are just gorgeous. The country is painted as really beautiful. It was clean. It's like that now, but with a ton more malls. There's a couple of performances where you can see the actors a bit struggling with their German accents, but that's a minor nitpick. There is a Nazi character who's particularly vile. I kept waiting for someone to drive a truck over him. If you're not familiar with Philippine history, a Google search would spoil the movie plot, but we get a character-driven, intimate, ground-level look at the people involved. There are some subplots that will go unresolved, but since this is a historical piece, the actual historical moment is saving the Jews from the Nazis, and that's what they focus on. The subplots are largely there to get things started, flesh out the world before the plot gets rolling. And that's fine. They weren't important to the story, and you still do get some closure from most in the form of update cards over the end credits. There's a few sections of dialogue which are very theatrical, as in very compelling speeches that convey just the right thing. Dialogue that looks great on paper, but sounds a bit unnatural. Not knocking it, so did the president in ID4. You can't tell me he made up that speech on the spot. Still, they're great speeches written to move the audience, so I'm not complaining, it's just an observation. There is resolution in the end, compromises are made, but it's still a joyful yet bittersweet ending. The world could use more people like him.
Could I have done more?
Quezon's Game is 4 Bs. The political pace might not appeal to everyone, but it's still an interesting character piece with a timely message. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment the bell, you know, the usual YouTube stuff. This is The Newbie, and I'll see you later, kids. Toodles.